Welcome back. NLNG has continued to increase its domestic supply of LPG or cooking gas, but clearly a lot more still needs to be done to promote clean energy. What would be your proposal?
Firstly, we intervened in 2007 when the refineries were unable to supply LPG to the domestic market. And today we are responsible for 80% of the cooking gas in the country. So that means 8 out of 10 cylinders in Nigeria is filled by gas from NLNG. But this is really small. The total usage in Nigeria to date is around 200 million tons per annum. Estimates, when you compare to other countries like Senegal and co, shows we should be using at least 2 to 3 million tons. So there's at least a 10 times fold increase that we need in LPG. 10 times fold. And you can think about that in the sense that today many homes still use either kerosene for cooking, or they use wood a lot for cooking. Kerosene, of course, 3 billion subsidy by government. Wood, of course, with the environmental and health hazards, deforestation and all of that. So we really need as a country to grow our LPG usage because it's cleaner, it's more efficient, and it saves us from this subsidy and environmental issues. What are the key issues really? I think it's one more of infrastructure, because we do have the gas LPG within LNG, more than 1 million tons that we can supply into the Nigerian market. But there's not enough terminals to take the product at the ports. There are not enough transport means in terms of the trucks. There are not enough buttonization plants or the kind of retailers that you need. And in many homes, of course, cylinders are also not available, especially when you go to rural areas. So there's quite a lot of work to do on that value chain to make it work. It needs investors. It needs also the government to play its part. For example, imported LPG today is VAT-free, whereas LPG from Nigeria itself is VATable. So it means it's more expensive actually to sell gas from Nigeria than gas from external. So the government will have to play its role. And we've seen in places like Indonesia, when the government has taken a lead, over there it was the vice president who championed the expansion of LPG in the country, brought together the industry, investments were put in place, investments which will include distribution of free cylinders. And I think these are things that we can do as an industry with the government support, and we as LNG are very keen to do this. So we are working with stakeholders to start to develop a roadmap to achieve this.
Nigeria's gas has low sulfur content, it's sweet and rich in liquids, which makes it ideal for supplying power plants. The ongoing power sector reforms are dependent to a large extent on a sufficient supply of natural gas, which makes it a seemingly perfect scenario. So what is distorting the picture in a manner of speaking?
In terms of the power sector. So firstly, we are not a gas producer, so I need to make that very clear. But I think the issue really is that we buy gas same way as gas producer, power companies should buy gas. So you can ask, why are we able to buy gas without interruption over the years, and why had the power companies not been able to do that? I think one of the problems in the past was that, especially when it was still PHCN and NGC, the price that they were paying was just not enough for people to invest. And just to give you an idea, the gas producers, for example, have to drill for gas. To drill for gas, you need a rig. A rig, if you are in an offshore environment, for example, could cost up to $300,000 a day. These are not the kind of investment you make if you will only be getting peanuts, or if you will not be paid for even the gas you supply. And in those days with the PHCN, the rate was so low, was less than about 20, we were paying about 20 times what they were paying at that time. And they were not even paying in many instances. So nobody was investing in the gas sector. I think the good part now is that the government has privatized a number of those power plants, and even the IPPs are going through that process. I think with private discussions, commercial arrangements will come into place that will ensure that the right prices to enable the investment will be paid. I know Nigerians have had the conversation around, will this increase the cost of power in the homes? But I will say two things. One, many homes today use diesel, and diesel is probably 6 times more expensive than you need to get if you are using power at the right source. So, going to a higher rate so that we can get power, I think is useful. But I think the second thing is that it will also make sure people control their use of power. You will see many places today, especially government offices, lights are left on 24 hours, nobody switches off ACs. These are the kind of consumption we need to control if you have the right pricing.
I think what you're saying seems to confirm what people are saying, that the pricing regime is what is discouraging supply to the domestic market. I spoke recently to the former Minister of Power, Chinedu Nebo, who once told me that the current pricing is fair.
Of course, the prices have recently been changed with the privatization of the power plants, as I mentioned, will enable those kind of investments to start to go. So indeed, as I said, I believe that with the privatization, we should start to see a much better situation in terms of gas to power. But, just to highlight some of the challenges they had previously, you had examples where power plants were built and they hadn't thought about building the pipelines to the power plants. So we had a number of power plants that were sitting without even a pipeline connections. Those are the kind of issues that you will start to see being resolved. And hopefully with the private sector investment, I think we should start to see improvements.